Thanks, Joel. I can still remember the first time I heard Larry Lujack on the radio. It was his very first night on the air in Chicago in 1967. It was midnight. I was driving home from my job in the merchandise mart as an NBC page, and I turned on WCFL. Larry had a distinct different voice, and it grabbed you right away. He said, "My name is Larry Lujack, and you're probably wondering why I'm on the all-night show. Well, it's because the management here at the station doesn't think I'm good enough to be on at any other time." No one had ever talked like that on the radio, but Larry did for the next 20 years. Larry Lujack tonight on the Friday Night Show.
Larry Lujack.
In a business of copycats, Lujack was an original. When he stopped the music to read his clunk letter of the day, everybody listened.
Today's letter is from Evanston, and the girl identifies herself as Betty Ragface. I find it a little difficult to believe that anyone has a real name like Betty Ragface. I think perhaps this is just a showbiz alias. But anyway, Betty Ragface writes, "Dear Mr. Lujack, I listen to your program every day, and I love everything about your program except the records and all the stuff in between."
He went back and forth from WCFL to WLS twice. With soaring ratings and a six-figure salary in the 1970s, Lujack became as famous here as the stars who came to visit. But interviewing celebrities wasn't his thing. Except for his Animal Stories sidekick Tommy Edwards, Lujack worked alone, unless he had to sit next to a young upstart DJ on a TV show.
This is from all the guys. We decided that we know it can be a grind to get up in the morning. I know, because I worked a morning show once. And may I get personal with you for just a minute? Even if you shower twice a day, you can't get rid of getting...
Truex bit.
And we'd like to present Larry with that. We know he can use it.
Truex medicated spray powder.
He'll be using that starting tomorrow morning.
Bring on the waxed fruit.
Lujack's influence spread nationally. Here he is with Tom Snyder on NBC's Tomorrow Show.
You say we play the most music when your disc jockeys are no good. You know, if you got nothing else, you play the most music.
By 1984, Lujack's WLS morning show was big enough in the ratings to earn him a 12-year, $6 million contract. Now he makes his home at Real Oldies 1690.
I've never seen that picture.
I think that was when you first came to town. Nice to see you again.
Hey, Bob.
Great to have you on the Friday Night Show.
I'm thrilled. I am thrilled to be here with a big TV star like you.
Were you always like this as a kid? I mean, were you sarcastic? Were you a bit of a loner? What kind of a kid were you growing up there?
I was
in Iowa, is that where you grew up?
Well, Idaho, actually. But if you look in the back of my high school yearbook, you see a guy with a Letterman's jacket on wearing white bucks, low-slung Levi's, so cool, letting the air out of the principal's tires out in the parking lot, and underneath that picture is the caption, "Class Clown." I was always a smart ass, and so in this business, that's an asset.
So I guess yes is the answer to that first question.
Yes. What was the question?
I forgot.
Oh, okay.
How did you first get interested in radio? Were you interested when you were a teenager?
No. The thought of going into this business never occurred to me, but I was going to college in Idaho, majoring in forestry, not a closely related field. And like a lot of other college kids, I didn't have any money, and I was looking for a job, and I walked to the administration building one day, and there was a little sign up on the bulletin board, you know, where kids put cards up there trying to sell a typewriter or a Mint 57 Chevy or whatever. And one little card said, "Wanted part-time radio announcer, experience preferred." Now, not only had I never been in a radio station before, I had no experience, but I decided to go down and try to bluff my way into it, which I did. And they made a tape, and it occurred to me later that probably the reason I got the job was because I was the only guy who applied, because in Caldwell, Idaho, how many people have experience in broadcasting? So, and that's where I started out, making $1 an hour. sitting on my butt playing Elvis records. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
You liked it right away?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, hey, I was 18. That's all I wanted to do anyway, was sit around and play Elvis songs, so I thought it was great.
So many people have copied you on the radio.
And I'm suing every single one of them.
Who did you emulate? Who did you want to be like?
I suppose in the early days, I used to listen to Seattle radio stations a lot, and I'm sure I was influenced by those guys. But early on, I decided that it was too much work to try to be somebody or something that I wasn't. So early on, being the lazy type guy that I am, I decided it was a lot easier to just be me. So that's how that got going.
And how do you feel about hearing Rush Limbaugh talk about or write about how he copied you, a lot of the stuff that you did on the air? I interviewed David Letterman once at NBC, and he said growing up in Indiana, he may have consciously or subconsciously copied a bit of your attitude.
Well, I think we all did that. I mean, I can listen to Rush, and certainly there is no similarities in our beliefs on things, but in mannerisms, I hear a lot of things, and the way he phrases things and so forth. And I know that David Letterman, I got a letter from his roommate at Ball State, said David used to get up early in the morning so he could hear the reruns of animal stories. What was the question, Bob?
I think you answered it.
I have this tendency to ramble, but I think we all did that in the beginning. I mean, probably you know, when you were in diapers listening to me.
That's right. Absolutely.
Were probably influenced, whether you know it or not. And we all were.
You said something to me a few years ago that I found surprising. You said that you never really liked being in Chicago. You never really felt at home here. You didn't like anything about the city.
I don't.
After all the years here, all the success here, how could that be?
Have you looked at the expressways lately, Bob? There's too damn many people in this town. There's too many cars. See, it's like my wife. It's the old there's no place like home thing. She was raised around here. She loves it. But I was raised in Idaho, a lot of wide open spaces. And
by the way, why does it say on the back of your book that you were born in Iowa?
I was born in Iowa.
Oh.
I was raised in Idaho. Pay attention, Bob. So I was raised in Idaho. And when I was in Iowa, we lived on a farm, so it was, you know, rural. But I went to high school and college in Idaho, and I like wide open spaces. I don't like a lot of people. I don't like a lot of cars. I like peace. I like quiet. I like tranquility. You people can have this place.
You never got used to it here?
No. You know, as you know, in this business, if you want to make any money, you have to go to the big city. And so I was forced to go there, to Seattle and Boston and places like that. But I always hated it. Still do. And that's why I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico now, where they don't even know what rush hour is. And you can get any place in town in 10 minutes. And I love it.
When it changes, you'll move, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
What's the
house?
What's the difference between who you are, who you've been on the air? Most people know you just from your work on the radio. What's the difference between that person and the off the air?
Well, there isn't any.
Larry Lujack.
There isn't. Like I told you, I decided a long time ago when I was, you know, doing this stuff, that it was the easiest way to do it is just be yourself. And so that's what I was on the air. That's who I am off.
I can only remember, I think, 2 times in your 20 years on the radio here in Chicago that you ever got emotional on the air, that you really let a lot of your personal side out there. Do you remember what those 2 times
yeah, I
were?
know what one is. What's the other one? Okay, what are the 2, Bob?
Well, one was your last show on the radio here at WLS, August 28th, 1987.
Yeah.
And the other time was when you spoke about your son, who you lost when he was 22 back in 1986, I think. Did you always feel, and it seemed during both of those times on the air, you were surprised that people, listeners, cared? Were you? Did you always make a conscious effort to not let that side of you on the air? Your emotions?
Yeah, sure. But yeah, the instances you refer to, you know, I don't think we better even go into this because I'll start getting emotional now. What was the question again? About why do I keep forgetting? I keep having these senior moments, and I forget the
you're
question.
a much more emotional. And I know you're going to start making fun of me here, but you're a much more emotional, sensitive person.
You're so easy to make fun of. You're such an easy target.
Than you have ever let on.
Oh, perhaps.
And in that respect, you are different off the air than on the air. In that respect.
Oh, I suppose. Okay. Perhaps. And the next question is?
You inadvertently, I think, with your style, and most of the time it was not about what happened to you in your personal life, but I think inadvertently you sort of laid the foundation for the next generation of radio personalities who did talk about anything and everything in their lives, the so-called shock jocks. I think those were people taking it one step further than you did.
You're going to try to blame me for all that? No.
No, can't you see that?
Yeah, I suppose. In the early days of my broadcasting career, there would always be a big sign up at the control room that said, smile. And you were supposed to smile every word that came out of your mouth. And I always thought that was stupid because nobody's like that. I mean, that's fake, that's phony. And so I, by nature, being a rather sarcastic, caustic individual, a lot of kind of a negative type thinker, but that got me in a lot of trouble in the early days too. I got fired at a lot of places because I didn't believe in doing that. Hey everybody, it's Larry Lujack on the radio, and here's Elvis. You know, I can't do that. So I was just me, and see, now I forgot the question again. I should pay more attention to you.
You answered the question.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. You had a very...
I'm so nervous. I'm hardly ever on TV anymore, and I forgot how to act.
Back when you were on WLS, you had a very public spat with Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer.
Yeah.
They were making fun of you on the air. You walked into the studio one afternoon during their show and confronted them. Mm-hmm. Thinking about that incident now, 15 years or so later, how do you feel about all of that?
Bob, I just got off a plane. I'm suffering from jet lag. You know, you're supposed to be lobbing me marshmallows, not asking hard questions. Okay, here's the answer to that one. 15 years later, actually it's been more
longer,
than 15.
probably,
Yeah. I wished I hadn't done it. It was very unprofessional. But then I never worried much about being professional, did I? Yeah, it was stupid.
Fair enough.
But I'd still like to ram his head right through the wall.
No, you wouldn't. Would you?
No, just kidding, Steve. Just kidding.
Had ABC offered you another deal when you left in 1987, had they said, here's another contract, stay on here, would you have considered that?
No, I'd had it. I was just burnt out. Because, as you know, being a former morning guy yourself, that just, you know.
Yeah, but you were working afternoons when you left.
Was I?
Yes, you were.
Oh, okay, take two on that answer. I'd still had it. By 87, I had been doing it 30 years. And I don't care what you do for a living. You do it for 30 years. And hey, you know, when I was 18, sitting on my butt playing Elvis records, making $1 an hour is the world's greatest job. But after 30 years of always worrying about getting canned because of the ratings or whatever, it becomes a grind. And it's, as you know, very, very pressure-filled, very stressful, and I'd had it. So then your next question would be, well, what are you back in it for?
Well, since you brought it up, let's talk about that.
I don't know. I got bored.
Well, before we talk about what you're doing now, let's talk about when you came back the last time, which was, when was that? In the summer of 2000. That was 13 years after you had retired. You were paid a lot of money to co-host a weekend show from your home in Santa Fe, New Mexico on an FM station, The Beat, and it ended when the format of the station changed.
Wasn't that a train wreck?
Well, you weren't running the program, and it was a station that was a format that wasn't really all that compatible with you. Some people were disappointed with what they heard. Do you have any regrets about doing that?
No, because they paid me a lot of money, Bob. It was obscene. It was one of those. I really had no desire to go back into the business. Absolutely none. But if somebody calls you and makes you an offer that you just can't refuse, I mean, I'm working 1 day a week.
This was the bit 3 years ago.
Yeah. 1 day a week for a lot of money, and you know, it's just too good to turn down. It was insane.
So now here you are again getting back into it as a co-host on Tommy Edwards' morning show on from your home in New Mexico, we should say.
No,
Right?
see, no, I moved back here, Bob. I'm sleeping on a cot in Tommy's garage.
No, you are not here.
He's just making this up.
But
people.
you're on the radio in the morning with Tommy on
That's right.
AM 1690, sorry, AM 1690, Real Oldies.
I wish you people here at Channel 32 could get this straight about where I'm working.
So were you bored again? Did they offer you a whole lot of money again?
Oh, no, there's really, the money's not that great on this because it's just a very low budget operation because they're just getting started and so forth. No, the reason I did this is because I like working with Tommy. I know John Guerin, the regional vice president of Clear Channel, very important guy.
Who was your boss for a time at WLS?
Yeah, and so I like these guys. I like working with them, and I genuinely love the stuff we're playing because it's the music I grew up with. And to anybody, that's their favorite kind of music is the stuff they grew up with in high school and college, and what we're playing is that. So I actually like listening to it. I actually turn the monitor all the way up. And
well, that's a first, isn't it?
Sue. You know, that Buddy Holly stuff.
When you first came to Chicago, you were working in Boston, I think, weren't you?
Yeah.
You were working in Boston. You got a call from WCFL in Chicago to come do the all-night show in 1967. What did you think at that time about Chicago, Chicago radio, and about that opportunity?
Well, initially, I was really excited about it because when you grow up in Caldwell, Idaho, and you know, at that time my goal was to make it to the big city. And before I got into the business, I spent a little time at the Air Force Base in Rantoul, Chinook Field, defending our country against godless communism, Bob.
Thank you.
He speaks on behalf of a grateful nation. And I used to listen to LS at night when I was in the on guard duty out at the entrance of the base, trying to keep hookers off the base. But some of them knew the password, so you had to let them in.
Sure.
And I listened to Biondi at night on LS, and I thought, oh, jeez, you know, if that guy can make it, so can I. And
Really?
I was like
You
21.
thought that?
Yes,
Really?
I did. I thought, I can remember listening to him and thinking, there's nothing special about him. If he can make it, so can I. And so I did. So hooray for me. And but at first, to get back to your question, and for the first time in the show, I actually remember what the question was. So the CFL flew me in, and they got me in the exec house, you know. And since loyalty was never one of my strong points in this business, while I was in town at CFL's expense, I also went across the river and talked to people at LS. But I mean, I was impressed. I mean, you know, the view is the exec house still there?
The Executive House Hotel?
Yeah.
It is there. Is it still called the Executive House?
Who cares?
We know the building's
It's
there. I
right
believe it
there.
is.
Yeah, it's right there on the river, and there's, you know, they're putting me up in this fancy hotel, and there's the river and all the lights, and I thought, hot damn, I am in the big time, baby. So initially, I was very impressed by the whole thing.
But that wore off, I guess.
It started wearing off very rapidly.
talking to you, it seems that you certainly understand the power of radio, having loved it, or the music anyway, as a kid, and then listening to Dick Biondi and when you were in Rantoul. So it does strike me as kind of odd that you don't seem to get the fact that people feel close to you just because they've listened. Back to the issue of you being very, I think, surprised and moved that people cared about you and your life and
Yeah,
what happened to you.
I was genuinely stunned. To get back into that incident, maybe if I compose myself, I can actually talk about it. You know, it's tough. But yeah, I was, I think I said at the time on the air that when you're in this business for that long, you start thinking of listeners just as numbers in ratings books. And I was really surprised that, you know, so many people cared and, you know, wrote letters, et cetera, and so forth. So, yeah, I was really surprised.
They cared when you had personal tragedy, and they also cared when you signed off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that was the reason that I got choked up on that sign-off thing, too, because I was making a reference to what happened that other time. And so that was dumb on my part. I should have taped that damn thing, but...
you know, you said that on the air when you did that.
Yeah.
And it sounded like you were embarrassed that that was happening to you, but that was a real moment.
You know,
What's wrong with
I
that?
got a very tough macho type image, Bob. You know, I don't like to show the softer side.
You don't.
You know.
I think that's true. Tell me about this this kid right here from the famous Super Jock book.
One of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of Idaho high school football, right there. You know, I was very surprised. I went to a high school reunion lately, and I was looking at our yearbook, and I had forgotten how mediocre we were. I led those Caldwell Cougars to a record of 3-3-3. 3 wins, 3 losses, 3 ties. We sucked. I think I set a league record for the most interceptions in 1 year.
Now, is it folklore, or I can't remember, or did you really take the name Lujack because of Johnny Lujack, the Bears player? Is that right?
Where are the marshmallows, Bob? Yeah. Sure. Oh, now he's getting into really in-depth, hard-hitting investigative journalism. Yeah, when I was in high school, he was a hero, so I just stole his name.
Yeah,
I had it legally changed. That kid,
here's the cute kid right there. Yeah.
He's 4 years old. He's in Quasqueton, Iowa there, Quasqueton, on the banks of the Wapsipinicon River. Living in poverty. We were poor white trash.
I have one other bit of business to clear up. When you were in the early 60s, working in Spokane, I believe, you got fired from a station up there in Washington.
Yes.
And you almost got out of radio, or you were talking about getting out of it completely. What happened there exactly?
Bob, marshmallows, jet lag. What's wrong with you? Make these questions multiple choice. Okay, here's what happened. Here's the truth. What happened there was I was doing very well in the ratings. I was on at night, and I was so impressed with myself and how good I was, I thought, I could do anything I want on the air, and they're not going to touch me because I'm so powerful. And I said something, and I don't even remember what I said, after a Volkswagen commercial, and the Volkswagen dealer thought that somehow I was trying to imply that he was some sort of Nazi or something. As it turned out, this guy had flown for the Germans in World War II, owned the Volkswagen dealership, and a lot of his employees were from Germany. So they were going to sue me, and they were going to sue the station, and the station thought the best way to handle it was just to get rid of me and get them off their back, and that's what they did, and it succeeded.
And then at that time, did you think, I'm done?
Oh, yeah, I thought, okay, this is stupid, because I got fired in several places before that. And so I thought, well, this is stupid. If this is all a radio career is, you drift from town to town, getting fired after a few months. So I'm going back to college and make something worthwhile with my life. I was going back in the forestry, and I'll make $400 a month and all the trout I can eat. But then I got back to, well, after Spokane, I went to San Bernardino and got fired there in 4 months. So that's when I decided that that's it. I'm going back to school.
And what happened to change your mind?
I was married, found out my wife was pregnant. We already had one little boy, and I started adding up, you know, what I was making and how much it was going to cost to school, and it just wasn't going to work. So then I called up some people in Seattle, and I went to Seattle, and I was back in rock and roll, playing Beatle records.
And we're all the better for that decision.
Oh, we certainly are, yes.
I want to wish you all the best on the new project.
Thank you,
They're
Robert.
at AM 1690, Real Oldies, with Tommy Edwards in the morning.
Very prestigious place on the the mighty 1690 there at the far right end side.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks, Bob.
And I remain a fan, and it's been a lot of fun to, for a time, be your competitor, for a time, be your colleague, and have you here tonight to talk with you.
Thank you.
All the best. Come back and see us again.
Oh, sure. Sure. I'll just hurry right back.
That's it for the Friday Night Show. We'll be back live Monday night at 7 with another hour of Chicago Tonight. Until then, for all of us here at Super 11, thanks for watching and have a great weekend.
Guest transportation for this program provided by AM's Limousine Service.
As I was walking down the street one day, a man came up to me and asked...
Closed captioning for this program is made possible by the generous support of Robert Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a personal injury firm.
Chicago Tonight, the Week in Review, is brought to you in part by the generous support of the Sara Lee Foundation.
Everywhere you go, people like the same things. Grown-ups like to drink coffee or tea. Kids like to eat dessert. And everybody likes underwear. That's why Sara Lee makes all this stuff. Things people really like. 'Cause they're things people really need. The Sara Lee Foundation is proud to bring you Chicago Tonight, the Week in Review, and other good stuff.
Here's tonight's lineup on WTTW 11.
Get ready to dine at